So in this video, what I'm going to be showing you is how to do Google authentication. Every time I see those Google sign-in buttons, I'm so jealous because I'm just like, I know when I sign into a website, I love just using Google sign-in. The good thing is it's a win-win. Some people might think that if you use Google sign in your application, it's as if, you're not getting the user, but you are. You're just allowing them to authenticate in a way to skip you having to do your own login and use a username and password. You're still going to collect their email. You're still going to put that on your backend, and you're going to use that as an identifier to do whatever you need to do on the website without using packages like Nextauth and all these other things. Let me show you a quick demo of what you're going to learn how to do in this video. We have a basic Nextjs boilerplate, a sign in with Google button. You click sign in, takes you to the route. Then you confirm the account you want to use, give permission to the app, click continue. Then it brings you right back to our main page, and then you have the picture from your Google account, and then we can log the person out. And also the Omar is also your first name from your Google account. Then you log out. Let me show you how to do that. Let's get started. If you guys like Next.js, CSS, front-end development, full stack development, hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. The next note is this won't be like a full sort of, login. It's kind of just showing you how to do Google authentication, but you can kind of just use this and you don't need to create your own login if you want to let the user sign in with Google. You can expand on this tutorial that once you do the Google authentication, what you can do at that point, I'm going to show you how to create a cookie, then do whatever you want with that cookie. You want to add tokens, refresh tokens, you could do that to your own cookie once the user, authenticates through Google. All right, so the first thing I want to do is show you the packages that you need. You only need 2 packages, Google Auth Library, so you can do npmi Google Auth Library, and then npmi JSON Web Token. Now in this video, I'm not going to be saving into a database. I'm going to be saving in a cookie. You don't want to save in a cookie necessarily, but for the sake of the tutorial to make it easy, just a demo, I'm going to be saving the tokens in a cookie so I can use it from there. But you want to save these in a database, read from the database, and then use that. But let's get started. For that, I have some basic things here on my boilerplate, some UI stuff, the header, the login, the profile. I'll go over some of these. Not every single thing, but most of them. The route, which is API auth Google, so we're in the app directory, and that's the main file that's going to do all the magic. The rest is some UI stuff, and then some, not this one, but the is logged in is just another component that checks for the cookie, and that's pretty much it. So the first step you have to do is you have to create a Google application inside of your cloud.google.com. So we're going to create a new project. I'll name it, analytics. I already did this, so I'm just going to kind of duplicate what I've done. Put the location. I don't think I have an organization, so you could just leave an organization. So I'm going to hold off on the OAuth consent screen. What you want to do is now go to create credentials, click OAuth client ID, web application, call it whatever you want. Now this is where you want to specify the authorized JavaScript. I'm just going to be specific. You could add the deployment URLs here later. I'm going to add the redirect. The redirect is where you are, the route that you're going to be redirecting and using to make the permission. So for us, we're going to call it, it's going to be under the API directory, auth/Google. And that's really important. Click create. So it's going to do that. It's going to take a few minutes, and then it gives you a client ID and client secret. So you want to save those. Don't worry about the JSON. Right? Remember, this is all for testing purposes. So click OK. Okay, so now let's put away the Google Cloud and authentication. Now we're inside of our app, and we have our local host. Okay, so step 1, what we want to do is, again, install the packages. We're done making the Google app. You want to make sure you do that. And now we want to build the route. Okay, so here's where most of the magic. So API auth Google is a nice kind of name for it. You want to import redirect from Next Navigation, import cookies from Next Headers. So we'll be using that. Import OAuth client from Google Auth Library. Import JWT from JSON Web Token, because we're using that. Now, you want to make sure that you've created in your .env.local, make sure that you've gone ahead and added your Google Client ID, Google Client Secret into your local file, into your local environment variable. Remember, you got those, jotted them down. You can grab those from your Google Cloud Console. You need that ID and secret, can copy those from those areas. And then you don't have to make environment variables. I made those. The Google authorized direct and the URL is the full URL that we put under the redirect, right? For us, we did localhost 3000 auth API auth Google, right? So it's the full kind of URL where this route resides. But this is what's going to be making the call. Then we're going to sign our JSON web token for the user cookie that we're going to create. So you want to just have some cookie secret. It could just be a string of whatever. If you want to just write it out here, that's fine also. But it's not supposed to be kind of available in the app. You want to make sure it's in an environment variable. So just a string, and we're going to use that to sign our cookies. So now in Nextjs 14, you have the export function, get. So anytime someone requests this page, you have the get, delete. We're going to be using that to delete the cookies. So this you don't have to worry about. But let's get started here. So the first thing we're going to do is let's start declaring the access token and refresh tokens that we're going to be pulling. All right, so let's just declare some variables. Okay, so there's going to be, Google's going to send you a access token and refresh token and an expiration date. So we want to just declare these for now. Now, leave these to the side for now. So the first thing we're going to start doing is let's start authenticating. Once someone lands on this link, we want to authenticate them. All right, so we need another one. Let code, let scope. Those are things that are going to be passed down. Now we want to read in case that Google is going to be sending back a code. Once you submit the scope, a code will come back. So we want to make sure we can read the search params. So we'll do if request next URL. This is just to read the parameters. And this is where we're going to get our access token. But before we get our access tokens, we want to start the authentication. So now we're going to say if we don't have any codes, again, we're going to get back to this. This is just another this is afterwards, after we get the authentication. So we say if there's no code, if you first land on this page, we don't have nothing back from Google yet, I want you to start generating an authorization URL. You want to use access type offline. Scope, you want to add these two scopes, the email and profile. It's up to you. You could just get the email, but I like to get kind of a fuller profile. The prompt consent is not necessarily needed. It's just important to have because it'll fully re-authenticate and send the refresh token. One thing people don't realize is refresh token comes once and never comes again. So prompt consent will make sure you always get the refresh token. I don't think it's good practice. I think it's just important to have there just in case you forget, especially on the development tutorial, you might not be saving the refresh token in time. So now this is going to basically send authorization to Google, and Google is going to respond with something. When it responds, it's going to respond with a code. Okay, and then you're going to use that code, which is going to be this. It's going to send the code, and you want instantly, once you get it back. So if there's no code, do the authorization URL. Once you get the code, and there is a code, now we want to go ahead and use the code and submit that to get the access tokens, right? So in order to do that, get the token using the code that comes. Now remember, this is not going to run unless there is a code, right? Because we have the if conditional. So we're going to get the token and it's going to come back. We're just destructuring the object. We're going to get, I've looked at these and I'll show you what they look like. We're going to get back the const tokens. It's going to send back a whole bunch of stuff. All right. So actually we could look at that now and make sure that everything looks okay. So what we'll do now is let's just make sure, and I could always, again, this prompt will keep on redirecting. So let's just see what tokens we get back. Okay. So we should be okay so far, right? Let's just test this out. And let's go ahead and sign in. Whoops. The thing I need to do here is so you don't want to just link. So I've tested this out because this is a server component, like my page and layout is a server component, right? Back up by the layout and page. And then I want to change it to client. And in order to do the login button, in order for everything to refresh, we want to make sure that we can update the router. So that's why we manually do a router.push. Generally, you can just link to the route, but you're going to find some issues in the future where the data doesn't refresh. So instead, I created a button and on click. We're going to function refresh page, and we're going to just push to that, the route, which is API auth Google, the same link that we were going to link to. And then we want to do a router.refresh so that when you click, the route happens and then things refresh. So let's refresh this again, sign in with Google. Now here we go. So we have the authorization question. It's telling you to go ahead and log in. Nothing too difficult about that. Now we're going to say, hey, this is the name of the app. Do you want to sign into Analytics OE? And that's just whatever you named it. Click OK. And here you go. Google just gave us back tokens, right? So it gave us, so all in the background, if we go back to our route, what has happened is if there's no code, we generated the authorization URL. It took us there. Google responded back instantly with a code. This all happened quick. You didn't see it. And then we read on the same page, hey, if there is a code, great. We got it. Use that code, right? Because they're going to send a parameter called code and scope with what you requested. Now we say, go ahead and get the token instantly, get the token, and now just display it on the page, right? So that's great. So here's what they send back when you send all this information. So you have the access token, you have a refresh token, you have the scope, you have an ID token. That is going to be another token that they actually did. It's a JSON web token that's actually going to have all the profile information, and I'll show you how to unravel that. So you have the access token, which you can use for APIs. Of course, you're limited to the scopes that you requested. So right now we only requested for profile and email, but you could add more scopes like analytics, Google Ads in these scopes here that'll give you more access, but you'll still get the same thing. You'll get back an access token, a refresh token, and you'll get back, whatever else you put here. You have the expiration date. So there it is. So now let's go back here. We don't want to display this on the page to the user. So I just wanted to show you what it looks like. Now you want to save the tokens into your database. I'm not going to do that for the sake of the tutorial, like, inserting records. That's other tutorials for that. But for me, I'm just going to go ahead and save it locally. You don't want to save this in a cookie. I'm just saving it for the sake of the tutorial. Yeah. So what I'm doing is I'm signing the tokens. I'm creating a cookie, a signed cookie, and I'm going to set that cookie with the value. So I'm creating a JSON web token out of what they gave me, right? Just to have a place for me to save it locally. What you're going to want to do is at that point, right? You're going to want to take what is in the ID token, which is right here. That is what has all of the profile. It's a JSON web token Google already does for you for the name, profile, and all that stuff. And we'll read that later. So if we go into here, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that stuff and I'm going to save it in another cookie. So tokens, right? Dot ID token, because that's the stuff that, now remember, you're not getting the values. You're getting a JSON web token for this one. I'm going to call it user info cookie. And I'm going to set another cookie called user info. This is going to be your login cookie, right? This is, if you are doing this with another login tutorial of your own login, you want this to be whatever the login cookie you're using. So you might want to take the token, decode it, and use it, and mix it up. So whatever you want to do, this is going to be my login, right? I'm going to end up using this to log the people out, log them in. I'm actually just going to show you also what's in this token, the ID token, to show you what comes, that they're sending you all of the profile information. So for now, I'm just going to return this cookie. I'm going to decode it because it's a JSON web token. I'm just going to display it on the page. And in order to do that, I have to back out. I'm going to kind of re-authenticate with Google. And here we are displaying. We're not displaying the access token. We're displaying that JSON web token called ID token that resides in the main token that they sent over. So you see here, they send over a few things here. You got my name, Omar. You have the picture. They're sending a value with my picture, for example. So look, if I go to another page here, oops, I added something there. So there's the photo. They're sending a bunch of information, email and things like that. So that's the information you're going to use. You could show the photo, and the name of the person. So we'll back out of this. I'm not going to decode that. I'm going to just save that cookie right inside of my main cookie, right? I want a JSON web token anyway, because you want to save that. So it already gives it to you. So I'm going to save that as your user ID. Not as user ID, as a user info cookie. Okay, so now let's go back and what we want to do here is refresh, return back to, we want to redirect back home. So Great. So it did it. So we're back home, and now if we inspect the cookies, right? So if you go into storage, we'll see that I got a tokens. That's where I saved all my actual access refresh tokens. Again, you do not want to save this here, these tokens. You want to save that in your database. It's just for the tutorial. I want an easy way. I don't want to do all the database stuff for this tutorial. You just swap out saving a cookie to saving it to your database. Now, here's where I got the user info. So now you can see here, if we go back to my page, I do have a login button, and I'm saying, now this is what I want to show you next is how do you create how do we make sure that, we know that we're logged in? Okay, so let's go over that now. I make a folder called lib auth and then is logged in. I just want to check if you're logged in. How do I know if you're logged in? If you have a cookie and it's valid. So here, we just want to check if you have this cookie right here, let user info. Then we're just going to do a try and catch error here. So I'm just going to copy what I have over. So you can see here, but you want to check if there's that user info. Does that exist? If it exists, you want to make sure that there's a value. Now, what in this case, we just want to make sure that it's there. So you have the user info, just make sure that it's there. If it's there, we just return the user info. Now, what we could have done here, which I didn't do in this tutorial, we could have actually signed it, as well, just like we do up here. Like we signed the main tokens. Again, I just did that for the sake of the tutorial. But what you can do here is sign this token, right? So it's not tampered with. If we go back to the page, what we're doing here is I'm importing the is logged in. And I'm just setting it off, checking const use info. And here we don't need to do anything. We just want to make sure it's there. If it's not there, just don't show the login button. And if it's there, we want to show the login button, right? So right now, as you can see, it's not showing my login button because there is a cookie called user info. So it's just doing that check. Now, the next step, without getting too crazy, is the header, right? I wanted to make sure that there's a header here. I showed you in the demo, I would show the photo, of the person and, giving you the ability to log out. I made a component called header, so we'll do that in my UI. I have one called header. Let's hide this for now. And right, so we'll see here, I'll show you here that we're importing the is logged in again. Now, again, because we're in Next 14 app directory, we can do all these server-side checks without any issues. So we're just going to go ahead and check is logged in. I want to read that cookie and say, what's up with the, does that exist? Same thing that we did in the page. And now we're going to say again, let user info. Okay, so if there's a user info response, let's decode, right? So now we want to decode it because remember, it was a JSON web token. So here I have the information I need. I have the decoded name, email, profile photo that Google sent me back. So now I'm going to check, hey, if we have that, show the profile photo, and now I'll show you my profile photo component. So if you go here, let's actually create that so we don't have it here, right? So that's why it's not showing right now, but now let's go ahead and create the profile photo component. So here we want to import use state, and this has to be client side. All right, so now we just want to have a state, right? Because I want to show the photo and have a login, logout button. So for now, I need a state called const show logout, set show logout. I'll show you that in a second. Just want to have a default state. I want to destructure the object. So again, we sent over as a prop the user info, all the decoded values, and I want to destructure that. I already know what they're like because I looked at it. So I know that what they do is they call it, a little error here, right side, assignment cannot be destructured. I'll look at that in 1 second. Oh, I see my error. I didn't send it off to the profile photo. So I actually didn't send it as a prop. So I want to send this over as a prop right here into the profile photo. And now we're good. So we're sending all that data into the profile photo component. We got it. And again, as you saw, Google gave one called given name. I kind of don't like that one. You could look at you could destructure and look at it, console log it. So the first name is called given name and the last name is called family name. I just need the first name. So I just like to destructure it called given name and name it F name. And then picture is fine. They have that profile photo link called picture. I'm okay with that. Now what we want to do is we want to go ahead and build out this, actual component. I have it here, so I'm just going to explain it, what I'm doing here. So we're going to paste that here. Now we're saying if the user info exists, just go ahead and show a div. You could see here it kind of already showed up. And now we want to say we just have an image, just showing an image with the picture as the URL, right? That was the thing. width, height, doesn't matter. Now on click, I want to show that. That's why I want to show the logout. If you hover over or if you click, you set the show logout, and here's what I want. I want another kind of like navigation button with logout, right? That's what I want to happen. But for now, you can see because we are checking that cookie, we already put all the information Google gave us into a cookie. The token, you'll save that in your database. We have the first name profile photo. And now we're just reading it. We're just server-side checking the cookie, seeing what's in there, and just sending it as a prop to our header, and our header is displaying it. That's it. Now we want to be able to log out. So here we'll have to do an async, function, logout function. Now I find that it's kind of have to do this sort of client side because we want to, in this case, we want to be able to update the data. So you can't always do everything server side. You have to kind of mix between server side and local because you'll find these little nuances where you find server side doesn't always work and too much client doesn't always work. So you have to marry the two. So in this case, we're going to send to our same route, API auth Google, but in this time we're going to send a method called delete. This is where we're going to just delete the cookie, and then we're going to say that's it. You log out, the cookie's gone. And then when you get the response, this is a basic fetch function. If the response comes back .logout, because that's what I did it, I want you to refresh the router, but the cookie is going to be deleted. So let's go in and show you how to delete the cookie. So I'm going to go back to my route and I'm going to go to the delete. All we got to do is, it's the most simplest thing. It's just cookies.delete and then the name of the cookie. And then again, you're importing, right, the next headers, which is the cookies. And then it's pretty good. Even if you forgot the name, like doesn't throw too many errors. It's kind of nice. I already know what I called my cookie. This is going to be your login cookie, right? The one you created, not Google's, right? You created your sign-in cookie because you might be adding other stuff in there, right? Google is just for the authentication. So now we're going to response, send a response called logout equals true. That's it, right? So deleting the cookie, logout true, going back to our profile photo. If it comes back log out, right? .logout, which is the route. That's what it's sending. Logout equals true. Go ahead and refresh the router. Just make sure this works. Go log out. There we go. And that's it. It's gone. And if you go ahead and inspect, you can see that the cookies, there's no user info. The tokens is still here. And again, remember, I'm only using the tokens for the tutorial that you don't need. This should be in your database. But the user info is gone. And that's it. So you fully authenticated and you fully logged out. There's one extra feature I do want to show you, which is instead of having to see every time you go back to the sign-in, you'll re-authenticate. That's not needed because you already have the access token and the refresh token saved, right? So you shouldn't have the user, if they have already authenticated and you have a good token, you just want to reuse those. So this is a little extra measure so that your user could just get logged back in right away without re-authenticating. Unless you wanted them to, you can do that. Now we'll go back to our route. So we basically want to check if the token exists. Sorry, so let's go back to where we are. So this is where you want to, authenticate, authorize the user through Google. Now here is where I want to do another check. We need to use these, the access tokens, and move those. That was for this area. We want to just have some default variables, access token, refresh token, expiration date. So if you got the tokens, now in this case, I'm checking my cookies. For you, you want to go in and check your database. You want to pull your database. You want to get the tokens from the database, wherever you probably save them as access token, you save them as a refresh token. You want to make sure those are in there and you want to pull those. I'm going to pull those from my cookie just for the tutorial. And I'm just getting the tokens cookie and I'm saying tokens previous. Also, remember, I signed it with JWT. So I want to make sure that they're verified. You don't have to do any of this stuff. This is only for the tutorial. But now we want to just do is once we get those, we're going to say if the previous, if you have those, right, if they exist, okay, I'm going to say, okay, so now let's say access token equals whatever it is from your database, right? So you want to get the field, or if you're using MongoDB, whatever you're using, just pull the access token and just declare a variable. So access token, refresh token, expiration date. And now we want to say, did the access token expire? The access tokens expire every hour. Refresh tokens barely ever expire. So now we're going to check, hey, did this expiration date from the token, because we had saved it already, is it past the expiration date? If so, now we want to recall the database and we want to go ahead and get a new token. So first you have to do something called set credentials. So you have to set OAuth client. So remember, this is pulling your Google Client ID secret and your authorization direct. This is just part of the package. And you want to set the credentials to the tokens. What you want to send to set credentials is the token, access token, refresh token, and that's going to tell the package, great, we have the tokens, let's use that to get new stuff. So you can't make these requests without that. So in order to refresh the token or get a new access token, the refresh token won't be refreshed. It's the access token. You want to do, it's going to send back something called token, and it's going to give you the access token, and that's it through this. I'm just renaming it to access token here. I'm just destructuring and naming it to access token, but it's going to be called token. So great. If it expired, wonderful. You want to repull your database. You want to resave these tokens, right? So you want to resave it and extend the expiration date. So yeah, save the access token, save the refresh token is fine, it's already there, and resave the expiration date. And that's it. For me, I'm just going to redo this part, and I'm just going to save it as a token, as a cookie, right? Like I've done. It's only for this tutorial. If you're using a database, this stuff is already going to be there. You just want to update the access token and the expiration date, right? Because those things got re-updated. Then I'm going to save my token back into, the set tokens. And then if all is good, right, at this point, I want to just go ahead and re-add the cookie and redirect out. I don't want you to continue authorizing, right? I'm just going to stop you right here. I'm going to just re-add the cookie because and I'm going to be using, again, this part is up to you. You want to decide, what you're going to do here with the tokens or this cookie, what you want to place in there. But for me, I'm going to be replacing what I already had saved, which was the ID token, JWT token that Google originally sent me, and I'm gonna just resave that. Let me just make sure this is all working. Sign in, perfect. So that's instant, right? Because I already have a good access token and it's instant. Now I see this mistake a lot of other applications. They make the person reauthorize every time, but you don't, because you're already authorized. You're only using this as a sign-in authentication. You got it, but you should be doing the authentication inside of your app for the login for future reference, right? That's all you need. They don't need to reauthorize every time. There we go. Instant, perfect. So just a few caveats I want to mention is you want to make sure that you save the refresh token. So just some notes. Make sure that you have a database and you're saving the access token, refresh token, and expiration dates in the database. You're also, for profile information, Google is going to be sending back a JSON web token inside of that token with all the user info. You want to save that token as well inside of the database because you might want to reuse that. So for this tutorial, I'm going to be just saving inside of a cookie just for the tutorial. There's another caveat that's really important that kind of messed me up when I first started playing with this, is that Google sends a refresh token only on the first call. So once the user authorizes for the first time, Google will send you back access token, refresh token. Later on, when you redo the call, you won't get the refresh token. There is a little thing that I'll show you how you can add to always get the refresh token. Generally, you don't want to have that because you don't want to have the user to always authorize the scope, right? Only the first time the user authorizes the scope is when you're going to get the refresh token. So keep that in mind. So you want to make sure you save it on first call right away and redo it. But again, for this tutorial, I have a thing where it's always going to say the refresh token. Then the next thing is refresh tokens should never be revealed. For this tutorial, I am saving it in the cookie only because of the tutorial. I want to kind of get through the tutorial quickly without having to do database and stuff like that. I'm just going to be putting it in the cookie for now. But you do not want to save it in the cookie, the refresh token. Access token is kind of okay because access token always expires for about an hour. Refresh token kind of doesn't expire. So that's like your long-lived token that Google is sending you. That one you don't want to reveal to anyone, even the user themselves, because that gets out, they can be making calls to your database, getting tokens on their own, right? Most likely no one will do that. They don't know how, but that's a security risk. All right, guys, this has been the tutorial. I'll see you in the next one.